I was at an event once and there was an MC who was an internationally acclaimed speaker, who was an amazing speaker. But for some reason, it was like the audience just turned against her. She was like telling personal stories and stuff like that. And I remember having this like visceral empathy. I was just like, oh my God. Because I could see people kind of rolling their eyes and talking over her and stuff like that. And I was like, how do you stop this? Like, how do you bring them back when that happens? In that situation, what would you do to grab them back? Hi, my name is Judie Russell and I'm a video trainer and producer with the Vid Academy.
Hi, my name is Sian Horn and I am a business and marketing mentor. I teach businesses what they need to know to stay in business. Also the founder of the Club Women's Network and Elite Pilates and bbell.com.
Hi, my name is Jen and I'm the founder of a paid advertising agency called Lemon 7 based here in Cork.
Hey, I'm Jay Woodard and I am the creative director at Ad32, a content production house that produces content for SMEs and corporates.
Today's episode is brought to you by thevidacademy.com. Are you looking to upskill in video production and storytelling? At the Vid Academy, we offer comprehensive training for all levels to help you master the art of video through bespoke in-person training and online courses. Visit thevidacademy.com to find out more. Hi everyone and welcome to episode 43 of Unbranded. In this week's episode, I want to talk about emceeing an event because I got an opportunity to MC an event which I am afraid of. And also I want to talk about, am I the arsehole? I'll make it Irish. And basically I've stopped watching crap TV. And instead, when I need to like disassociate from life, I listen to these stories about, am I the arsehole online? And they're usually like about, am I the arsehole for not going to my sister's wedding or something like that. But these ones specifically are about business and marketing. And I just find them like super easy to listen to. So I've asked Jen and Shan to find an AITA story so that we can talk about it. But before that, we're going to talk about emceeing an event. You'll also notice we're missing Jay today. Unfortunately, he's too busy. I don't know about you girls, but September has hit me like a train. It is crazy. Are you the same, Jen?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I felt like it was a really slow first half of the year. I actually had meetings with like maybe 2 or 3 different agency owners over the last few weeks, and all of them are like, what happened for what even was January to July, August? Like what was it's like everyone has suddenly panicked for the last 4 months of the month, or for the year, but that always happens, doesn't it? I find in my world anyway, people are suddenly like, oh fuck, Black Friday, Christmas.
That's it. Or is it like when the kids go back to school or something like that, everyone's like, we have this amount of time. I don't know. What about you, Shan? Are you crazy as well?
Yeah, absolutely crazy, but only crazy because everybody took the summer off.
Yeah.
If people could just keep working, please, next year, that would be really helpful, because I just feel like everybody's come back with a bang now and are in a bit of a panic. And I've got a lot of eventing going on for the last quarter as well, so that always makes it a bit Q4 heavy. But really, I'd say in another 4 or 5 weeks, I'll just be looking forward to 2025. I can't wait, actually. I love a new year.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? I had a great year, so I'm not in any way anxious about the next year. I think it's all going to be great. However, before the end of the year, I have been asked to MC a large event. It's over like 3 hours. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet because I don't want to jinx myself. But basically, it is not on a topic that I'm familiar with. So, I'm more than happy to stand up on a stage in front of a couple of hundred people and talk about video all day long. But this is in an area that is I have no background in. So therefore, I'm like imposter syndrome, fraud, trying to find anything that I can relate to this group of people, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. But anyway, before I get into that, Shan, you have emceed hundreds of events and you're brilliant at it. And Jen, have you emceed an event? I wouldn't be surprised at all if you have.
No, I've only ever been speaker, never MC.
Yeah, but you've been to enough events to know what a good MC does and what a bad MC does. So I'll start with you and asking, what do you think makes a good MC at an event?
Just a highly engaging person all around, someone who's just approachable, relatable, because I feel for me like the MC is the vibe. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like the speakers are nervous coming in, the audience is anticipating quality typically, and the event producers, like the people who are putting together the event, also have a vision. So there's like all these moving parts that actually the MC has to bring together live in an environment, which is difficult to do. So it takes a certain amount of personality to do it, but also like the ability to pull those moving parts together in the back of your mind, where it's like, someone just said this, the event producers will love that if I rile the audience up around that. For the cameraman who's standing over there, you know, there's a lot of moving pieces in the background, as well as making it like really seamless. So that wasn't a clear answer, but I feel like it was a roundabout way
I
of
like
looking
it.
at it.
The vibe. I gotta bring the vibe. And
You gotta
Sian,
bring
what
the
about
vibe,
you?
Yeah.
I think she's completely right. I actually always say it's a bit like being a barmaid. Yeah. So I don't think you can teach someone to be really good behind the bar. I think you're natural at it or you're not. And the best people that work behind the bar can serve someone, take the next order, and let the third person know that they're on their way. So everybody feels comfortable and doesn't feel like there's a time frame around it. And that's kind of the same when you're emceeing. You need to be able to pull the really good snippets and take the conversation there. So it's a lot of memory work, which I'm useless at these days, but it is like, so someone could be talking and kind of, you've got to stop your brain on the piece that you know is a good next section to lead into, but let them finish. So listen at the same time. And 100%, you need to check on the audience as well. It's not always about the panel. If you see someone fidgeting in their seat and egging and dying to ask something, I personally, and that's my style of emceeing, it's as much facilitation as it is emceeing, I would bring them into the conversation.
Excellent. Yeah. And like, I don't know, have any of you been to an event? Like, okay, so I was at an event once and there was an MC who was a internationally acclaimed speaker, who was an amazing speaker. But for some reason, it was like the audience just turned against her. She was like telling personal stories and stuff like that. And I think it was because everything was late. And the more that the MC spoke, the more that the audience was getting frustrated. And I remember having this like visceral empathy. I was just like, oh my God. Because I could see people kind of rolling their eyes and talking over her and stuff like that. And I was like, how do you stop this? Like, how do you bring them back when that happens? And this was a very experienced MC, but like, Sian, in that situation, what would you do to grab them back?
But I think you got, number one, remember, you're the master of ceremony. You're not the person that people have come to see. You're the person accommodating the people that they've come to see. So it's not about you. So get back to the subject matter. And yes, I certainly have, definitely in panel discussions, it can be a little bit harder. And I've certainly been in the predicament where someone is going on for too long. And I hate to interrupt, but sometimes you have to say, listen, I hate to interrupt, but we are going to be short of time. So can I just ask you? And sometimes if I find that one person keeps going on for an extended period of time, the next time I ask a question, I might ask, can you in 2 sentences tell me this? So you're then, without being rude, you're saying, look, I need to shorten this. And sometimes they go off and I go, no, hang on. I'm testing you now. Within 2 sentences only, can you tell me this? And the audience appreciate that because they do want to hear from everybody. And sometimes, you know, especially in a panel, you might have one that kind of takes over a little bit. So it's really important that you spread out the information.
What's interesting about what you said there, Judie, as well, is that she's a well-known speaker and she was emceeing an event.
Yeah.
Was she a regular MC or was she a regular speaker? Because if she's a regular speaker, she was probably defaulting to her natural speaker skill set as opposed to an MC skill set, which I think are I think I'm a pretty decent speaker, but I would be an absolutely terrible MC. Don't ever hire me for your event as an MC. I will do a terrible job.
I disagree with you completely, but I think he gave really good advice there. I think it's like, it's not about you, it's not personal. And then don't fall into being a speaker about your subject matter. That is not your reason to be there. Now, this event, they're going to give me a full script and everything, you know, like I'm happy about that. I suppose it's just the initial stepping up on the stage and trying to find some kind of something that can make me seem like I'm the right person for it? Or do I just say, I know nothing about what you do and I'm really excited to learn, or kind of thing?
Can I ask, I've seen an ad with you in it. So do I know what this is?
No, it's not. No. It's totally different than that. That's just a speaking event. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because I was like, oh my God, we only spoke about that last week, and now she's doing a speaking event about it. It's brilliant. Okay. So scripts, just be careful. Okay. Because whether or not, you are there to get information across as an MC, but you also have to be you. So when you get the script, then I would tweak it to your personality and then send it back to them and say, look, I wouldn't actually ever use that language. So is it okay if I put this in? That's what people, because they've asked you for a reason. I've been given scripts in the past that are extremely formal, and people would be like, that's not how Sian speaks. Do you know what I mean? So I've said, look, I can put all of this information in, but I would just do it like this or change it like this. So make sure that your personality isn't lost in the script. And 100%, I mean, it might be that you start with, do you know what? This is a subject until today I knew nothing about. If you were to explain it to me, and go to the audience, say, if you were to explain it to me in 2 sentences, what does it mean to you?
Yeah, really like that. Yeah, good. And Jen, have you ever been at an event where you've seen the MC bomb, and how did they pull themselves back, or was it just not a good event then as a result?
It just always happens when someone has a speaker skill set instead of an MC skill set, where they just like dive into the conversation, when they become part of the panel instead of leading the panel.
You
have to lead the conversation and guide the conversation, and you're bringing the experience together. You're the ringmaster. You're not the performers. That makes sense.
Yeah. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, I do a lot of time I'm talking emceeing, women in business or it's wellness, and it's the industry that I live in. So sometimes I might say, oh, I understand that because of this, but you've got to take it straight back to them. And if you're going to talk about your experience at all, it's only to link it to the next question.
Yeah. And do you know, I was at an event recently, and the MC insulted one of the panel by accident, right? It was more like they were just saying like something, but they said it in a way that made it sound like that they were like, oh, you explained that really badly. But like it wasn't that way at all. But then they couldn't bring themselves back, and you could just see the redness rising, and they were just like, and then the person kind of got it. But it was just this awkward moment that you're just like, okay, skip past. Like it's live. It's not edited. So you have to kind of be live.
I think as well, if you can get some time with the people that you're interviewing or that are on the panel before, just to get some sort of familiarity. There's nothing worse actually than going to see an MC with their piece of paper, like a newsreader, I mean, that's not the kind of stuff that I like anyway. But just reading questions off a script. It just, oh, hang on, I'm at question 4 now. Oh, hang on, I'm at question 6 now. Do you know what I mean? Oh, the next question is, it needs to flow. So for me, if you can get to meet them even for 5 minutes before and just say, this is how I want to do things tonight. Are you happy with that? All they want you to do is to put them at ease.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that this podcast is teaching all of us, like honing our skills of active listening, and then without kind of being like, without muting the person. Do you know what you said? You need to hang on to something that they say and then be able to kind of come back with that. Sometimes when you hang on to the part that they say, then you mute out everything else that they say after that. And then it comes to the end of it and you're like, oh, sugar, I forget now what I was actually going to hear. Deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jen, I interrupted you.
No, not at all. I was just saying that like you don't have to kind of expect the unexpected. And I'm saying that from, like, I once ruined an MC's day, which is absolutely the poor woman. I just made a terrible mistake. I was on stage. It was in person in the US, in Washington, DC, not long after the Roe v. Wade. And I decided to make comment on it. And some people started leaving the room and some people started clapping. And the MC just was like, I threw her. I shouldn't have said a single word. It wasn't my place. It's not my country. It wasn't my place at all to say a single word. That being said, I was asked a very direct question around what you would do for team members in unusual medical circumstances. So it tied into what I was saying in the same breath. But I remember I just remember the poor woman, just like, it was fine. It was just like, okay, let's next question. Here we go. But like that, you could just move swiftly on sometimes as well when something terrible happens. But I would describe that as potentially an outlier scenario. That's probably the worst thing that could possibly happen to you, Judy. So at least you've heard an example of it in advance.
I would have made comedy out of that. I would have got you by the scruff of the neck and said, will we let her stay or will we let her leave? and just got the room.
You would have started a riot in the US doing that, though.
Absolutely. I'd love it. I was going to say something. Do you know what? That actually is what I was going to say. If you lose your train of thought, be honest about it.
Yeah.
Be your authentic self. There's nothing worse than watching someone go, oh, like I just did literally 3 seconds ago. Oh, what am I thinking of? I would always say, hang on a second now. I was so obsessed listening to that there. I just lost my train of thought for a second. What I did want to ask was, because people can see it anyway, so just be vocal about it.
Yeah, I have amazing ability to forget what I'm about to say all of the time. But Jen, your story has led us very well into Am I the Arsehole? Because, it could be argued either way that you were just asking a question, so you might not be. But these are very good. And I'm going to start with, I liked this one. Okay, so number 1, am I the arsehole for starting a business in direct competition with my father's and making him lose clients?
I picked the same one.
Oh no, okay, wait, there. I have another one. This actually wasn't the one that I was going for.
So it's good. Let's do it. I'm so 50, I printed mine off.
I love it. Yeah. Okay. Am I the asshole for telling my wife nobody cares about her small business? My wife, 27 female, owns an Etsy shop where she sells handmade jewellery. She has some real talent and the jewellery she sells is genuinely very nice and high quality. She gets a surprising amount of sales on there too and has great reviews. The issue is that everywhere we go, every conversation, she has to slip in something about her shop and trying to promote it. Talking to a friend, she'll casually mention a big sale she made or a customer order she got. Talking to our waiter, she'll mention that she has a pair of earrings on her shop that would complement her eyes. The other day was a family member's birthday and they were having a decently sized get together with other family members. I went with my wife and she's a pretty social person even outside of promoting her shop. So she was quickly making conversations with my family. Of course, 5 minutes later, she was showing someone the bracelet she had on and she mentioned that she sells them and talking about how she would give them a 25% discount. She probably had that exact conversation with at least 5 people during the 2 hours we were there. As soon as we left, I spoke to her and she said she needs to quit doing that. I told her people were actually interested. They would ask her about her store, but not every single person wants to talk or needs to hear about her. She got upset and said that she just wants to spread the word about her product. I feel like I'm the arsehole, since I will admit I had a pretty harsh tone and could have been a lot nicer during that conversation. Plus, I get she's just trying to sell her products, even if it's obnoxious. Who is the arsehole? Jen.
She is. I hate to say it, but it's one of those like hard lessons everyone in business has to learn. No one gives a flying fuck about your product or what you do. The sooner you learn it, the better you get at your marketing and sales, actually. Because as soon as you realize nobody cares and you're forcing it, you find the better opportunities to you start spotting when they do care, when people do notice it, or when there's a genuine opportunity to bring it up or an authentic variation of the conversation, and you get a lot better at it. I was certainly guilty of it. I had a partner in the past who actively said this to me before, so I was like, nobody cares about your business. But at the time, it was my life, and it was like, the start of everything as well. But it's a hard pill to swallow, but one that is highly beneficial over time. That I think. So I think she's the asshole. Again, he could have been the asshole though if his tone was off. So reading these things out, you just don't know how the conversation went in real life. But as a concept, I think like it's just a lesson she needs to learn in life.
And Sian, you probably have a lot to say about this because in the club, we don't talk about our businesses. We try and get other people to talk about our businesses for us instead. So who do you think the arsehole is here?
He's an arsehole.
He is?
He's an arsehole. I'll tell you why he's an arsehole, because he used words like a little Etsy shop and surprisingly does well in sales. So he's an arsehole before we get to the issue, because he's used words that he'd never use for a male business, number one. He's called her business small. He said he's surprised that she's doing well. So he's just an arsehole. However, she's a bit of an arsehole too. Because, selling your business as a service is so different to selling your business in retail. It really is very different. So, and I know what will happen is someone will say, oh, I like your bracelet. And she'll be like, oh, I actually make them myself. And there's 25% off. That's going to egg him off straight away. However, she hasn't started the conversation by shoving a bracelet under someone's nose. Someone has commented on something. And I think in that situation, it's absolutely fine, but you don't start the conversation. Do you like my bracelet? Is being arsehole. Oh, thank you very much for the compliment. Actually, I make them and I sell them. But you know what? I'll send you a link. End of conversation.
Yeah. And like, I can relate. And it's not that I talk about my business to people who I think might buy it. It's just like you, Jen, at the start, I was so obsessed with, like, it's all I did was think about it all the time. So I remember calling over to my friend's house and they're a couple. And I remember going on and on and on about my business. And I couldn't stop myself because I was like, and I could see the eyes rolling in the back of their head, but I was still like, I need to vent this out.
Yeah.
Like, it was terrible.
And you need to remember in which room she's doing that as well. So if she'd taken her husband to maybe a local business networking session, she's talking like that, and he works for a business, he won't have any understanding of being passionate about what you do when it's your own business. So it depends on the circumstance as well. And look, I could talk about work all night and all day because I love what I do. And after a couple of wines, I normally turn to the table next to me. And if a couple are talking to us on holiday, I can't help myself. I'm like, oh, what do you do? I can't help myself. And then we I do this. And you end up on, and my husband does exactly the same. Oh, for God's sake. But I love what I do. And it's a big part of my life.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you just got to be really, know your audience. Know your audience.
Mm-hmm. Jen, do you have a story for us?
I do. Yeah. Let me just bring it up here. So, okay. So this one is called, Am I the Asshole for Giving Up on This Team? So I work in paid media. So this is someone who's in the same world as me. I work in paid media. I just got a new job and I have 2 direct reports, both in active therapy for anxiety, which is fine if it didn't affect work so much. They both demand 5 working days per project for campaign setup. By this, I mean they are asked to set up 2 campaigns with 2 ad sets and 5 ads each on 2 platforms, Meta and TikTok. And they need 5 entire working days with nothing else on to get this done. By the way, the audiences and copy and assets are already done for them. They just have to transfer it all into the platform. In my opinion, they're taking the piss. The other day, due to client demands, we had to turn something around in 3 days. One had a panic attack. This is a small, slow agency, and they supposedly have 2 years' experience each. I don't understand why it takes so long. I actually did a training session where I took them through how to set up a campaign, and one got so offended because I was calling her slow by having this training. Am I the asshole for thinking tiptoeing around 2 anxious staff is too much for me to handle?
Wow. Sian, can you go first?
Okay, the first thing I'm really annoyed about is he hasn't said how long it takes him.
Well, he's done the training. I'll give context to that because like I read that and I was like, oh my God, 5 days.
Oh
like,
yeah, I'm like ridiculous.
I would have this turnaround in like 2 hours would be a very long setup for me.
Yeah. 100% they are the arsehole. Unfortunately, there is a lot of arseholes out there. I think they're absolutely taking the ripping piss out of him. And I would become the arsehole. I think it's time to put them onto I forgot what you call it now. I'd put them onto review, and if they can't do the job that they were employed to do, they're not in the right job. Unfortunately, he's definitely not the arsehole here. Look, I feel sorry for it. It's awful when people are anxious and everything else, but they're just in the wrong role, and they should be in a role where there isn't time limitation. So that he'd be doing them a favor by getting rid of them.
Yeah, I agree completely. And it's such a tough area, like, especially when mental health comes into the workplace, and like, it's just so awkward, and you want to be supportive to people, but it sounds like those people are just jumping on that as an excuse as opposed to it being a genuine thing. And like, I don't know, having a conversation about like, why is it taking you 5 hours? Can I show you how to do it? Like, that shouldn't be taken as an insult. But like the other stories, you don't know the context. So this person is always writing in terms of like their point of view and stuff. They could have been like, you're so slow, I'll show you how to do it in 45 minutes, and then forgot to kind of, you know, mention that part of it. So I think it's so hard to know sometimes, but I tiptoe around that so carefully. It's why I don't have full-time employees. Oh.
Yeah, no, it's very, very, very awkward.
So Sian, what's your story?
So I found two, but I'm actually going to do the one. Now, the one that you picked as well, it's quite long, but I'm going to do it. So I have a father who left our family to start a new one with our neighbour. I thought that was the best bit. When I was 13. I never fully forgave him. And even though he tried and still does try to make it up to me. Growing up, he would pay me to work for his company. It's pretty advanced construction finishing stuff like custom molding and all these different stuff and uses. I worked with him on and off all the way through college, and I've gotten really good at it. He asked me to join the company when I left full time as an equal owner. As I graduated, but my stepmom had a fit and basically forced my stepbrother into the mix as well. I do not get along with my stepbrother. I don't like my stepmother, and told my father it was either him or me. He also did not have any of the right skills to work in any kind of major capacity. To no one's surprise, my father said I needed to compromise and everyone in the family can be happy. I refused to compromise, which is a shame. I refused to compromise and went ahead and set up my own company. My father was upset, but I guess he figured that he couldn't stop me. We continued to having our weekly dinners. For some reason, people liked my work more. I have expanded my company more than my father ever has. I also targeted his major clients who have slowly come over to my company. I don't even do any of the labor myself anymore unless I want to. Last week, my father broke down and said that his business was struggling to survive. I admit I did feel bad, and so I offered him a full-time job in my company and that I'd buy out all of his tools and workshop leases, etc. But I told him my stepmother and stepbrother are not welcome anywhere near my company. This made my father pretty angry. We had a bit of a pretty big fight. He said I betrayed him, and I basically told him he betrayed me for cheating on my mother when I was 13. I do not feel guilty, but I do kind of feel guilty. I ruined my father's company he worked so hard to build, but at the same time, he forced me into a position by getting his family involved. Judie.
Oh, the Succession vibes here are just like, whoa, okay. Do you know what? I think all of this turned out great for everyone. Like, the father's getting older. He's going to want to retire anyway. The child is the rightful, like, you know, nobody wants to be handed a business. You want to build it on her own. She gathered all the right skills, set up her own company that became better than her father, which is just legacy, you know, anyway, which is great. And now she's offering a full-time role so he can like ease his way out into retirement. And I actually think it's brilliant. And I think he's only feeling betrayed because the other two are in his ear. And if they weren't, he'd probably, I think as time goes by, he'll see that this actually worked out better for everyone. And that's what I try to focus on myself, is like, I don't want what's best for me. I want what's best for everyone. And whatever's best for everyone is the best solution to the problem, kind of thing. So I don't know. You might have different takes on that one.
What do you think, Jen?
Yeah, it just sounds like it's fine to me. I know it. Like, he's better than his father was. So I mean, the father also can't take that away from him in so many different ways, and also put him in the position. Like, he squeezed him into the corner to make a decision between, once again, I am not a trained psychologist. I should flag that before I go any further. But he's squeezing the son into the same position that he probably felt when he was 13 again, where like he's forced to partake in this new family or experience this choice between people again. And the son is every right to be like, fuck off. No, like, no. fuck you. You don't have to keep recycling history in different ways and formats around the business. So I think the father is very blind to what he's putting the son through potentially, and just sees everything as like all his roses. I think that the son is well within his rights. If it was me, I would have probably been so pissed off. I would have been like, fuck you, I'm not even offering you a job. So, there's that.
I thought it was a daughter. Sorry, Sian, it's a son, is it?
Oh,
yeah,
well,
I don't know. Doesn't make any difference, to be honest. But for me, I'm like, I get halfway and I'm like, okay, then I think it's a bit arsehole moves. So targeting your father's major clients because your dad doesn't do what you want them to do. Because remember, he wants to compromise. So no one went further with the compromise. If at that point of compromise, I said to my dad, listen, I don't want to work with my stepbrother. Why don't I set up a separate company? Why don't you partner with me in the separate company? And we can still work together and you'll still have your own business as well. And I would have done it that way because the father taught him what he knew. So you have to appreciate that a little bit. And to go and target his main clients, I do think that's an arsehole move. The rest, I don't have a problem with him setting up the business in competition. However, I do think nothing good comes out of meanness, and targeting your father's major clients wasn't a nice move.
Mm-hmm. And do you know, just to finish, because there was one other story that I couldn't find then when I was looking for it, but it was similar to that, right? And I wonder if you've come across it. It's like this girl was in the same industry as her friend, and she was helping her friend with setting up the business. Years passed anyway, and the girl who was helping her friend actually set up in the same world, but like it sounded like it was marketing, and they just both were in marketing in some shape or form. But then the friend came back and was like, you've just stolen my business idea. And the original friend is like, I just don't think that that's what happened. We were both kind of solopreneurs, kind of just building up the same thing. It's just, I'm sorry, I did better than you, but her friend stopped talking to her. But I don't know, like, I think that's something that I was always scared of at the start. Like I was like, oh, what will other videographers think of me and stuff like that. I wonder, does it come up for you? I don't think it comes up for us anymore because we're established now. But I think especially when people are starting out, I think they probably have a lot of fear of what their friends and peers and college grad people with them, what other people will think. What do you think about that, Sian? Do you think that they have to just go their own road?
Arsehole. I just think don't be an arsehole, and I have no problem. I've got a couple of businesses, they do specific things. Actually, I'm just off a call this morning. I just sent a voice note to somebody that is in exactly the same business as me and said, I think you should do this. And my friend said, oh, I didn't think you'd do that because you're competitors. And I'm like, we're never competitors because I'm not for everybody.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But would I target someone that I knew she specifically worked with? No. Not directly, like in an advertising campaign, it might happen. But would I target them? No. I think there's plenty of people for everybody.
Jen?
Tough one, because they wouldn't have moved from the father's business if the father was better than the son, providing a better service at the end of the day. If you took all the emotions out of it and the kind of shittiness behind it, which is there, the client still wouldn't have moved if the service. So, like, I'm a firm believer in competition, and at the end of the day, I think competition is really, really, really healthy.
How did he make? What my annoyance with that would be, though, like, how did he make the contact? Do you know what I mean? So,
yeah,
like,
I think that part is shitty.
Working for his dad, he probably got to know them. They were the major stakeholders and paying his dad. And then he goes and sets up and then he targets them. I just think that's shitty because he's obviously taken from his dad's database. And actually, just go in the other direction. If you're good, you'll get other clients. But don't shit on your dad. Like, I don't like that.
Yeah, but it's also if you, it's definitely shitty. Totally agree. If you set the shitty aside, though, the son must still be the new business still must be better. And it's interesting, even on the same path with, like, say for example, marketing agencies. Like, I have clients that are still in contract with another agency.
Yeah.
And are so willing to move that they're willing to pay both agencies at the same time to see out the end of a contract. that they've signed with another agency, but I've just been like, just stop working on it. We're working with someone else now. We'll finish out that contract with you from a legal and payment perspective. But it's interesting, isn't it? Where it's just like, okay, the shittiness isn't there. I don't go off targeting other people's clients. But if they come to a competitor, or if someone leaves me and goes to another competitor, there's a huge learning curve there, either for me or for the other agency, or whichever way it's sliced and diced, where clearly the competitor in that instance is doing something better. I just think that there's a learning somewhere in there, regardless of the shittiness. And I know the shittiness shouldn't have happened in the first place to find that out, but you get where I'm going.
And I agree, because I think the shittiness is halfway through. It's the compromise piece. They didn't work that out properly, because there was a compromise there, and then they would have been happy as that it shouldn't have got to where it got. It's a shame. But I was just really, really amazed at people actually write this shit down.
I love it. I know, I love it too. Okay, final question, because we're running over and I've really enjoyed the session. But this counselling session, by the way, that's what this is for me every week, and I really appreciate it. But in the instance that a client comes to you and they say, for example, in your situation, Jen, we want to leave this videographer, MC, marketing company, and we want to move to you, but you know the person that they're leaving. What is the correct way to approach that? Sian?
So I deal with this all the time. So people come to me, especially actually last year after COVID, it happened all the time. People would have websites or marketing done for them and weren't happy with the results, had no fallback, etc. So we're looking to move. And what I would always say to them, I am never privy to the conversations that have been had. So I want to see the paper trail first. And as a mentor, I'll help negotiate how to fix that, which is a bit like mediation. But I always will say to both sides, I'm not privy to your conversations. And most of the time, problems are with communication. And that, well, I said this on a phone conversation last Friday. Yeah, but there's no trail. So I don't know that you said that. So I can only work with the contract that you have. And I just always say to people, I'm not privy to your conversation. So let me see the contract. Let me see what you're not happy with. And sometimes it literally is that somebody doesn't know how to ask for something properly. And so then I do that piece for them.
I'm going to double down here, right, and say the client comes to you and they're like, it's 20 grand, Sian. It's a week's work. I don't want you to tell the other person that you know that this is what's happening. Would you do it, or would you say, no, I have to talk to them?
100% I would do it, because they need help. But most of the time my advice would be, like with Jen being taken on, when people are still in contract, like I would be like, let me sort the bloody contract out just so that you get your money's worth. Do you know what I mean? Because I hate a waste of money. But, that's not Jen's role. That's something that is my kind of role. Do you know what I mean? So Jen is completely right to take on that contract. That person needs help. They want to get the ball rolling. 100% she's right to take that on. But yeah, my role would be more to make sure that they got their money's worth out of what they'd spent.
Very good. And Jen, like I'm sure in the instances where this happens to you, the agency that they're leaving, you don't even know anything about them. If it happened that the agency was maybe someone who you've worked with in the past or a close friend, how would you approach that one? It's tough, like.
It's a tough one, because there's actually there's a very well-known agency that this happened to me with, where they had locked all of the client ad accounts to their own. So I had to ring them up and be like that's really bad practice. Like, you have to release their data and all the rest of it. And it was so tied up that they actually, even if they wanted to or had changed their mind on their processes internally, they couldn't. Like, the client had to start from complete scratch again. But this happens all the time in my world, so it doesn't, like, there's been clients of mine that have moved to another agency, sometimes on my recommendation even, where they have moved because they need a team that has a skill set that does outbound sales or, you know, like really like print or, you know, out of home stuff, and they need like a really blended approach. Often my go-to in this instance is Mark Flavin in 3v1. Like we would refer work back and forth a lot, and I'll pick up the phone to Mark and say, hey, I have this client, been working with them for this amount of time, really lovely to work with. They need this, this, and this. I can only do this. Do you want to take it over? I'll hand over everything. Normally it's a handover conversation that we're having, but where it's messy and the client is having an argument with the other agency, my biggest problem is gaining access to the tools and platforms that I need to do my work smoothly. And that is usually the hardest hurdle to overcome, where it's like, hey, they've moved to me, I need access to this, this, and this. And to be honest, most agency owners like know each other well enough in the background. It's like, why are they are they a bit of a dick? Like, should I be taking on this work? Like, what's your side of the story here?
Yeah. Brilliant, guys. So much learning. Okay, so we are probably way over, but just quickly to end on, anything good coming up this week, Sian?
Oh, what isn't coming up this week? I'm just busy organising the Women in Business Awards, which are in November. I've also got a confidence, bit of a fun day event that I'm doing in October in Cork. And yeah, all the usual. But yeah, loving this week, I have to say, and the sun is shining. All good.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. Jen, you got good stuff coming up?
Yeah, I mean, the next couple of weeks is chaos. Like, I've already got rolling Christmas campaigns and everything else in between. But I started PT, so my entire body is really sore.
I could see you pressing your collarbone, and I was like, "Is she wearing a vest or something like that?" I was like, "What's going on there? Like a bulletproof vest?"
I'm just so sore. I'm just so sore. I feel good for it, but it's it'll be another few days, I think, before I'm right.
The takeaway from this episode is never exercise on purpose, people. Joking. Go to Elite Pilates. They'll never make you sore.
Hang on a minute. Go to Elite Pilates. We'll sort you out, Jen. Come in. I'll stretch those muscles for you. There'll be no more hurting.
Thanks a million for listening, everyone. Please like and subscribe and share our stuff online. We'll see you again next week.
Bye.